We get to take Jordan out back and kick the shit out of him for this one.
Get Lofty to start looking up people shot in LA.
They probably don't even report those anymore.
Yeah.
If you were in San Francisco, they would really just be like, sweep that bad boy under the rug. Yeah. You know who the highest leverage play is for today? Nas Reed at 29% positive leverage.
That seems good.
He's the first guy that might have a bust percentage of fucking 0.
Now, somebody had one the other day. Can't remember. I just remember noticing on the show.
Nas Reed's at 7, which is about as low as it should conceivably go for like any realistic play. Yeah, he would have to take like a bullet. And we are live, finally. Thanks, Jordan Klein. This is the NBA Strategy Show brought to you by PrizePicks. 4-game slate ahead of us. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We're going to have to keep it moving on this one, so not a ton of pleasantries out of the gate, but make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel. Adam, anything good yesterday?
No, not at all.
We don't have the time to even elaborate on that, so I appreciate you there. Apologies for the late start. We're just going to blame Jordan. So when you inevitably know that he is producing a show in the future, go ahead and blame Jordan in the chat. But for now, we are diving.
We have nothing to apologize for.
Well, I apologize to, people are here to watch the content. I like being here on time. I apologize for that. Jordan is at fault, but I am apologizing on behalf of Jordan.
I apologize for Jordan.
What are you, Connor? I apologize to absolutely nobody.
Yeah.
Double champ does what he wants. Golden State Warriors are 6.5 points. 7:30 start, by the way. So we have an island game. There's a Paris game, Pistons and somebody. Jalen Duren lost his passport at one point in time, but now he is in Paris. But we have 4 games for tonight. Golden State Warriors, 6.5 point dogs in Boston, 237 total. And for Golden State, Klay Thompson's in, no Kuminga, no JaMychal Green, no Andre Iguodala, no James Wiseman. So we're getting a pretty standard Warriors rotation here. Obviously a tough matchup defensively against Boston. You expect it to be relatively competitive. Highest owned guy is actually Andrew Wiggins at 5,800. Steph down at 7%, which is always interesting from a GPP perspective on a 4-game slate. When you look at Golden State, who are you trying to target? I don't know if there's anybody that I want to go crazy for.
Yeah, I don't think there's one guy that like truly stands out because like you said, they are back to full strength. You got 38 minutes from Steph last game. So obviously that's good to see. You're never going to be upset about getting to him. He's only 0.7% ownership. We have him with about an 11% chance of being optimal right now. So I do like that. And, being a shorter slate makes it a little bit easier to get to him. You have Harden, you have Embiid, but no Giannis, no Luka, no Jokic. So a little bit easier than normal probably to get to Steph, but you do still just have a lot of good guards on this slate as well. Clearly not the best matchup in terms of Boston's really good. It is a solid matchup in terms of it's a 6-game spread or 6-point spread, 240 total. If this game is competitive to the end, you are probably getting a lot of minutes from Steph Curry. So that's nice. I like getting there in tournaments, but again, just a lot of other guards to get to as well. Wiggins at 5,800, small forward, power forward eligible, leading the way in ownership. I think that makes sense just based on the positions that he plays. Played 32 minutes last game. I expect him to, be around 34 minutes or so going forward. Did have an abbreviated rotation in the third quarter last game. Not sure what the reason for that was. Doesn't look like it was foul trouble, but he only played 2 minutes and 22 seconds to open the third quarter. obviously that's not what he's normally going to do. And so it's really easy to assume that he probably plays more minutes today than he did last game. Draymond at 6K, Clay at 7,200, both look okay as well. Clay is likely to play 36 minutes or so. That's what we've seen from him recently. Curry coming back is not a positive for Clay, but I don't think it's that much of a negative either, just because Jordan Poole calls his own number so much that it's not like we saw a massive bump in usage for Clay when Curry was out. I think it went up a little bit, but it wasn't anything crazy. So I think this is just a team where, Wiggins is going to be the easiest to get to, followed by Draymond, just because of the positions that they play. But then, if you get to some staff for Clay or even Kevon Looney, I think that stuff's all fine as well.
Poole is basically impossible to get to, right?
Yeah.
He can't be a guy you get to with a lot of volume.
Like, he's 7,800. I would think he's playing around 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But some of those minutes are going to be with Steph on the floor, which is not ideal for Poole.
No. Kind of like Anthony Lamb at 3,800, like as just a, sub 4K value option that's not pulling any ownership. 3,800, small forward, power forward, plays in that like 22 to 24 minute a game range generally. They've really condensed this rotation a bit. Any interest in Lamb?
Yeah, I mean, I think that with it being a 4-game slate, he makes some sense. He's probably playing 20 to 22 minutes, but he is only, excuse me.
Good.
Yeah, I think he is maybe not.
Go ahead. Mute and clear. Adam just not able to function. Maybe if he had a drink that was water instead of only coffee or milk with his cereal, we'd be better off in this case.
I think I'm good now.
Okay.
Maybe not. It's still there, but yeah, he should play 20 to 22 minutes. He's only 2% owned. Like, the upside's there, if you get foul trouble on anybody ahead of him. Similarly with DiVincenzo, he's 4,800, pulling 7%. You're not going to be confident getting there, but he is likely to play, mid to upper 20s.
Evidently, you're hitting reverse puberty in the middle of this show. It was working out very interesting. Just becoming a baritone in the middle of everything. I don't have anything else really to talk about for the Warriors. I thought they'd be a little bit more interesting just because of the way that we've seen their rotation concentrate, but it really is Wiggins, and it's just a situation where Wiggins plays the positions that are like least important on DK from a value perspective. Now we're getting all of that guard value. We're getting this never ending amount of center value that you're propping up these mid-tier, like 5 and 6K small forward, power forward type. So not that I don't like Wiggins at all. And I think his minutes start to ramp up. We saw 32 on Monday. I think it's reasonable that he is the most owned guy for the Warriors. So I can't really disagree.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. On the Boston end of this one, we do have a Q tag on Jaylen Brown that obviously creates a massive, massive trickle-down effect for the rest of Boston. I assume he wants to be back. The good news for us right now, it's the 7:30 game. We're going to know if Jaylen Brown is playing or not today. And I assume if Jaylen Brown is playing, he's essentially himself. I gave him 34 minutes. Like, I probably would have given him 35 if this were just normal or potentially even more. But I think coming back from an adductor injury, I want to be like a little bit more cautious. I still think he looks pretty good at 9K, shooting guard, small forward. But we know what a Boston rotation looks like. And whether it's Brown or Tatum or Smart, I think the best play is Robert Williams.
Yeah, I mean, assuming he remains in the starting lineup, played 27 minutes last game. He is 5,500. So the price tag's come up a little bit, but right now we have him going way under owned, which to me always means that either the ownership's coming down, or I mean, either the ownership's going up, the optimal percentage is coming down, or both, and they're kind of just going to meet in the middle. Like, you're not going to get to lock and have Robert Williams be 10% owned with a 20% chance of being optimal, because the field's just better than that. But it does, suggest that he's going to be a good play tonight at 5,500, assuming he remains in the starting lineup.
Yeah. And look, based on him getting past 3 games for Time Lord, 29.5, 27.5, 27.5, it seems to me now that he is back and he is the starting center, and we're going to get back to Smart, Brown, Tatum, Horford, Robert Williams. That's where I think that we're going.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's likely.
And at some point in time, I think we're also going to get an even bigger bump to Robert Williams, where like 30 becomes the norm if he can handle it. I assume that's what they want. I gave him 27 minutes. I think that's about, like, I don't want to go too much over that, but I can't imagine projecting him for less if I assume he's starting. So at that point, I really do think that he looks like a fantastic option. I think the rest of the team just sort of looks really similar to each other if Brown is in. Like relative to salary, they're all sort of the same value to me.
Yeah, Tatum obviously is going to look good. Smart looks pretty good. I think Smart's probably a little bit underpriced at 6,500 for it being a 4-game slate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with
Agreed.
you. Tatum, Horford at 5,300 looks okay. Assuming White moves to the bench, I'm not super interested in him at 5,100. He's pulling 10% ownership right now. I think that goes away.
Assuming Derek White is moving to the bench, how many minutes do you think you're getting out of him in relationship to, like, say, Malcolm Brogdon? Do you think they're going to be the same, or do you think White sort of maintains those extra 2? Because I assume that they become basically equals.
I'll say I think they both become like 22 to 24.
Okay.
Is that about where you have them?
Well, if I'm being honest with you, I have Derek White over projected because I didn't think about it. But now that you said it, I had Derek White in for like his standard issue, like 27. And now that we're talking about it, if I don't think that that's going to be a range that he's hitting. Grant Williams always ripe in a matchup like this to pick up a couple extra minutes. Like he's tailor-made for these matchups against the highest end teams, but he's not a good enough per minute guy where it like you need him to have 34 minutes, not a bump from 24 to 26 or something.
Yeah, exactly. If Jaylen Brown is out, then Grant Williams starts to be somewhat interesting. But again, like that price tags come up because of Brown being out as well. But yeah, like it's really tough for Grant Williams to pay off a $4,400 price tag if he's only playing like 24 to 26 minutes.
Obviously, if Jaylen Brown happens to be out, I assume we're still getting Derek White in the starting lineup then alongside.
Yeah, and it would make White look certainly better than if he's coming off the bench. It would also, increase the paths to success for a $5,900 Brogdon, and it would certainly make Jason Tatum look better.
Right. And we're going to have enough value across the board to get to whatever pay up option you find to be interesting, and potentially 2 of them by the time that we get to lock, because we've got the pay down options that are out there. Have we gotten that update yet? No, not yet. Okay. Anything else you want to touch on for Boston?
No.
This is where we're going to pick up a little bit of time. The Toronto Raptors, 3.5-point favorites in Minnesota, 224 total. So Toronto is now back to being themselves, sort of. They've now trimmed it down to an 8-man rotation. We don't have any like Q tags or anything relative or relevant other than Delano Banton's got a Q tag. Maybe he becomes like whatever they wanted Malachi Flynn to be. I don't know at this point. So I'm projecting essentially 8 dudes, big minutes across the board. We've got 20% ownership going to Siakam, VanVleet, Trent, Anunoby, Barnes, and Achua to some degree. And I don't really have anything else that I could say. I want to unload here on Toronto against Minnesota.
Yeah, you always want to play Toronto, but they're going to look really good. I mean, you're just getting.
Don't say it like that. Like I'm just like on an island for this one. Like you're not going to say that every one of those guys are good plays.
Yeah, no. You're just back to the Toronto rotations that we know and love. As far as like the bench goes, last game, Juancho Hernan-Gomez played 7.5 minutes. Boucher played 14. Achua played 26. That was it. That was the bench run. 43 minutes for Gary Trent, 37 for VanVleet, 37 for Barnes, 35 for Anunoby, 40 for Siakam. Nurse basically just gave them like a 3-game vacation, and we are back to Toronto being Toronto, and it makes them look great. The salaries came down a little bit. VanVleet 8,100, Trent 6,600, Siakam in particular down to 9,700. That's the cheapest I can remember him being in a while. Still center only, so you have that opportunity cost there, and as a result, he is the lowest owned of the 6 main guys from Toronto. But all of these guys look good. Scotty Barnes, I think, is worth mentioning in particular, just because he has been playing bigger minutes consistently lately. He's somebody that earlier in the year, not only did he deal with injuries, but you just had a lot of games where he sort of would not play as many minutes as everybody else for one reason or another. But he's been producing, he's been getting bigger minutes. So as a result, you're getting, a little bit higher price tag than we were used to, but he's, deserved it. He's pulling 26% ownership here. Siakam, Barnes, Anunoby, Achua, VanVleet, Trent all look good. I don't hate the Achua to Boucher pivot in tournaments, just because I think more often than not, Achua is going to get more minutes than Boucher, but you are getting 6 times the ownership on Achua, and Boucher has the better positional eligibility. Any game where it's not even that you have to flip it, where it's like 26 Boucher and 14 Achua. Yeah. Any game where they both play 20 to 22, you're going to probably wish you had Boucher.
Right now, I have 10% Boucher at what we had projected for 5% ownership. So I'll be happy to get to a little bit. And I want to make sure that I am getting to him. But I also have no issue whatsoever getting to Achua at 3,700. Although I do think at 30% ownership, there's more downside to him than upside. I think that's about like he's sort of getting owned at what you need him to do. Although on this slate, like it's really just not going to take that big of a score at 3,700. This is very different than if you're playing on like yesterday's 9-gamer. Do you set any rules for Toronto?
No.
Okay.
No, and the reason.
Nothing for the Siakam, Boucher, Achua stuff. I'm bringing it up again because I know we talked about it on Tuesday.
Yeah, no, I mean, they played just so many minutes alongside each other again. Also, the same reason I'm not setting like a max one of Achua Boucher is the same thing I had said the other day. They play a lot of their minutes alongside each other. And you could argue that in some senses, there's positive correlation there because if the second unit, I use second unit very loosely with this team, but if the second unit were to, for some reason, get more run, whether it's just they're playing really well or the game starts to get out of hand or whatever it may be, they're both probably benefiting there. So, yeah, I'm not setting any rules for them.
Okay. Anything else for Toronto?
No.
All right. On the Minnesota end of this one, we can't really talk about them yet. They are on a back-to-back. We didn't have Gobert yesterday. We didn't have Austin Rivers yesterday. It feels like a scenario where Rudy Gobert is just going to play neither game of this back-to-back. I don't have a great feel for that, but it seemed just based on the way that his game went Saturday and then Monday, I'm doubting that he's playing today. We will not know this until we get their injury report, but my assumption is that we're not going to see Gobert. Rivers, I don't know. There is a trickle-down effect to Austin Rivers, but I can't assume. For now, we have to just imagine that Naz Reid is starting today, like we got yesterday. Based on ownership, he's the best guy in the world. But I think Naz Reid is unequivocally the best play today. I will have him in everything. He's the first guy you're putting into every cash lineup. I don't know what else to do other than to say that he is the best play for today.
Yeah, assuming that Gobert is out and he starts.
Yeah, with the assumption that Gobert isn't playing.
Yeah, I mean, don't be discouraged by yesterday. Like, he played 26 minutes yesterday because he was in massive foul trouble in the second half. He played 19 minutes in the first half of that game. And we had seen him in previous starts this year where he managed not to get hurt and not to be in foul trouble play, like 36 minutes. So we can expect him to play true starters minutes as long as he avoids foul trouble and as long as Gobert is out. And he doesn't need anywhere close to true starters minutes to pay off a $4,600 price tag. He's well over a fantasy point per minute guy. You realistically only need like 24 to 26 minutes for him to project as a great option. And then you're just getting all those extra minutes on top of it. I'm assuming that the reason he's only projected for 28% ownership right now has something to do with Gobert being questionable. But I expect him to come in, 60, 70% owned if he's starting. And I don't have any issue with that.
No, I assume that I end up having him in every lineup that I make. I'm not going to really see a way around it. He even looks better on FanDuel today than he did yesterday, just from a relativity standpoint.
I think my favorite part of doing DFS shows is that you can talk about like the literal best play in the world, and you're going to pull up chat and somebody's going to say to fade it.
Yep, it's asinine. It's truly asinine. Like we're way past that now. I don't. It's the easiest place to get different somewhere else and just lock in the lock play for the day.
And even if you're not locking in the sense of like 100%, like,
yeah.
I mean, I think I was with the field yesterday. It was like 60%. I had like 75, but like, yeah. Okay. So like, yeah, a quarter of my lineups didn't have him, but like I had him in 75% of my lineups.
And now it's a 4-game slate, not a 9-game slate. So like his relative value to the rest of the people is massively higher than it was yesterday.
And he's cheaper.
Yeah.
On DraftKings somehow.
So let's have the conversation now then about Luka Garza. Backup center for Minnesota for the most part. Flat 3K, center only. How appealing is he today? Because my assumption is he's not appealing if he's getting a ton of ownership.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an ownership thing. Like, if you're going to get Like on the 2-game slate last night, for example, Naz Reid was 70 or 75% owned. Luka Garza was 4. In a situation like that, Luka Garza is very, very appealing.
Yes.
And on the 2-gamer, I thought you could even play them together because it was 2 games. 4 games, I probably still won't play them together. But
Same.
it makes them appealing. The issue is just like I'm still going to be prioritizing getting to Reid. If this game goes according to plan, you're probably getting something like 14 minutes for Luka Garza.
Yeah.
But it is appealing just in the sense that assuming Reid ends up coming in at like 60 or 70% owned, if he does just get in huge foul trouble and Garza manages not to, because that was the issue with Garza last night as well. The whole front court fouled out, or not fouled out. The whole front court was in foul trouble. Reid got in his foul trouble in the second half. Garza got in immediately. Knight got in even faster than Garza did. So it was, you didn't get to see like a normal center rotation at all. But there's a path where if Reid does get in foul trouble, Garza just comes in and plays like 18 to 20 minutes and ends up being great. But like if he's going to get ownership, I'm just going to play Naz Reid instead.
Works for me. Yeah, like if he's up into the 30s, then I think we're just going to be able to find. At that point, you start thinking like maybe they'll just pick Nathan Knight instead of Luka Garza. Like they're both 3K centers for the day. At that point, you start like unlocking on a 4-gamer. You start unlocking like the other backup center on the off chance that they just shift that entire direction. Not saying that like I like that or anything, but it's there. Happy to get to Edwards. Less happy to get to D'Angelo Russell right now. His minutes have been weird as of late. Kyle Anderson looks really good for this team at this point. Taurean Prince has the opportunity to fall into a bunch of additional minutes if Austin Rivers is out. What else do you see for Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot else. There's a lot more to like here. Like you mentioned Kyle Anderson at 5,600, massive game yesterday. Walked into, I think, 5 or 6 stocks, which certainly helped, but also just did what Kyle Anderson does. Scored a little bit, rebounded a bit, got some assists, just gave you one of those like, I don't know, 12, 6, and 6 stat lines or something in that ballpark. And he's likely to give you around 34 minutes here again. So he makes sense at 5,600. Taurean Prince at 3,600 doesn't need to play 32 minutes to look good at that price point. If Rivers is out, that path is certainly there. If Rivers is in, I would expect we're getting like 24 to 26 minutes from Prince. Probably like 24. But even like if Rivers is out, Jalen Noel only played 14 minutes yesterday. You could get a game where, Prince is back to 26 and Noel's up to 20. But either way, at 3,600 on a 4-gamer, he's going to look like a good value. It's just a matter of where does the ownership end up coming in? Because at 33% ownership, there's certainly some hesitation in getting to Taurean Prince when he could just play 24 to 26 minutes, but it does look like a good value piece. Jaden McDaniels should play around 32. I'm with you on Russell. The playing time has been weird recently, but at the same time, if he's only going to pull 12% ownership on a 4-game slate, I do think that's interesting just given the upside that he has.
Yeah, like he came his own the same way that he came out of my sim. So I have nothing like I don't find him to be like a giant negative or anything today, but he's a guy that I was getting to a lot more recently. But I know you said it before, but maybe we should have this conversation. Should we be willing to play Naz Reid and Luka Garza in the same lineup on DK today? I think from a salary perspective, I think it's okay.
I'm really borderline on it. I hate doing it because I think that they can both at their salaries pay it off in the sense that like Luka Garza gets 18 and Reid gets more than 24 or 30 or whatever, but you're still using a roster spot there. And I'm not convinced you really want to do that. Like the issue for me is still Garza, because if this game goes the way Minnesota wants it to, he's probably playing like 14 minutes.
Ooh, so would you be saying that's like 34 to Naz Reid or like one Nathan Knight rotation?
No, I think if this game just goes according to plan, Reid's playing 34, 36 minutes.
Okay.
Like that's not where I would project it. I'd project it for like 30 or 32 to Reid and 16 to 18 to Garza. But I think if there's just like no fouls called in this game and no injuries and it's competitive, I think you're just getting like 36 minutes from Reid.
The question then becomes like how much do you need out of the 48 minutes of center on Minnesota? Because I think with 3K Garza, I don't really hate it just because of the price tags. Because I don't know if you find something better, even if Naz Reid is just like Like if Naz Reid just hits his median projection, he gets to like 34 fantasy points or something in that neighborhood. I don't really think it takes all that much of a outlier performance from Luka Garza to just work still. Even in 14 minutes.
I guess it would help if I had today's projections. Because the other thing that I'm kind of trying to think about is, so like if you have Naz Reid, you're going to just prefer Precious Achiuwa, but so is everybody else.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a piece as well, is if everybody's going to, right now we have Garza getting ownership. So I don't like playing Garza with Reid because like theoretically right now everybody's doing that. If we get to a situation, I think this is really what it's going to come down to for me. If we get to a situation where ownership like adjusts and we have Reid at 67 to 70% and we have Garza at like 5, then I think it's interesting just because, yes, you're getting that negative correlation, but it's being offset in larger field tournaments by the fact that you're getting a pairing that other people aren't going to play. And if Luka Garza beats Precious Achiuwa, you're going to be in a very, very good situation. If it holds how it is right now, where Garza's getting 32% ownership, that just means that there's going to be a lot of overlap where people have Reid and Garza, and you're not getting that added bonus of having, an unpopular combination. You're just playing a backup with his starter, and so is everybody else. So I think the Garza ownership is really going to be what drives that for me.
I agree with you.
Because if you can just make it a game of, all right, everybody's playing Naz Reid, but if I can have Luka Garza in, 16 minutes beat Precious Achiuwa, which is certainly possible, I get a leg up. That's one thing. If it's like, oh, well, I don't really get any leg up, even if that happens, then I don't really know why I'm doing it.
Schedule for the rest of the day is pretty simple to talk about. We've got the NFL strategy show coming up next. We've got the NHL strategy show at 2 p.m. No House Advantage NBA at 3:30. NBA Deeper Dive, Adam will be back for that at 5:30. And then NBA Live Before Lock tonight at 6:30, leading you up to that 7:30 lock. Also, if you want 5 days free of our NBA package, Stokastic NBA, there's a link in the description. Click it, head on over. That's projections, ownership, boom, bust, our lineup generator, our player compare tool. If you've never signed up with us before, you can get that for 5 days. I think we'll move through this one pretty quickly. The Brooklyn Nets are basically half-point dogs against Phoenix, 223 total. On the Brooklyn side, we get Kyrie Irving back. The only guy that we're missing here is Kevin Durant. Irving pulling about 20% ownership. O'Neal is at around 18. Everything else is single digits. I like getting to Kyrie today, but I find the rest of Brooklyn to be relatively uninteresting. Do you like anything from the Nets?
So I think that Simmons at 7,100 is still interesting in tournaments, but certainly not the same play that he was. Like, that's a hell of a price jump for him. Kyrie at 9,900 is going to look good. Royce O'Neal at 5,700, somewhat interesting, but I think that's just from a positional standpoint, shooting guard eligible. So actually on DraftKings, he doesn't even have small forward. So I actually expect that ownership to come down. But Kyrie for me, really, I guess the only piece I like.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I don't really have anything else to add. All the prices aren't like all that advantageous. I don't love a matchup against Phoenix to begin with. I don't have more to say here for Brooklyn. Like, it's a 4-game slate. You're going to get your shares of Ben Simmons, Nick Claxton, Joe Harris. I mean, Seth Curry, 5,400. Like, that's a pretty healthy price tag. TJ Warren's expensive. Watanabe works as a value option if you want to like pivot off a Taurean Prince or something. But even he only played 12 minutes on Tuesday. So who the hell knows? I just don't find Brooklyn all that interesting.
Same.
The Phoenix side is very difficult to talk about. They're going to be without Landry Shamet, Devin Booker, Cam Payne, Josh Okogie. Cam Johnson is back. He's missed basically the entire season. And then Chris Paul is questionable. Giant Q tag there. We've got Bridges, Ayton, Paul, and Torrey Craig, all about 15% owned on DK. We've got a little bit of ownership coming into Cam Johnson in his return at 5K. I can't imagine he's going to be playing a ton. It was a knee injury, so I would guess they're like slowly ramping him back in. I honestly think the most interesting guy might be Saban Lee at 7% ownership. We'll see where that ends up. He played 28 minutes. They didn't play Dwayne Washington on Monday. But if we get Chris Paul back, how do you see Phoenix?
Yeah, I mean, if Paul comes back, I don't have a ton of interest in Phoenix. Like if you want to take some shots on a $7,500 Chris Paul and hope that he just walks into 32 minutes, then sure. But I'm not totally convinced that happens. DeAndre Ayton's probably my favorite piece at 7,700. It's a very, very good spot against this Brooklyn front court. We know that Ayton sees a little bit of an increased usage rate without Booker. If Paul is back, it should just get the ball in Ayton's hands in better situations. Like having a good point guard is nice for him. So to me, Ayton's the top guy here. If Paul is out, then yeah, Saben Lee at 3,200 is really interesting. If Paul is in, then Saben Lee is still mildly interesting, just assuming he's going to be the backup point guard. But like that also doesn't even have to be the case. They could very easily go to like Landry Shamet as the backup point guard.
Shamet's out.
Okay, then they can't go to Landry Shamet. Yeah, missed that one. So then he probably does have to be the backup point guard.
And I mean, unless they unearth Dwayne Washington again as a backup to Chris Paul, but they don't like him.
No, they don't. So yeah, I would expect that like you're getting whatever 48 minus Chris Paul's minutes is for Lee, which is going to make him look okay at 3,200 on a 4-gamer. But again, if Paul's out, I think he starts to look really good. Other than that, though, I don't really have a ton of interest in this team. Like Mikal Bridges should still play a lot of minutes, but he's up to 6,800. Torrey Craig at 4,500. Don't know how much he ends up playing with Like it depends on how much Cameron Johnson plays.
Yeah, I gave Johnson 24 minutes. I actually think he's mildly interesting in that spot, but maybe they just want to get him going and get him some shots. I don't want to go too crazy here. He's better at 4,500 on the FanDuel side. But we probably won't even have any real news on Cam Johnson, whether or not he's limited by the time we get to lock. The Chris Paul news is everything, because I think Saben Lee might become like a 40, 50% owned dude if Chris Paul ends up out. Like if you project Saben Lee for the 28 minutes that he got on Monday, and he's just like the starting point guard for this team, he's going to be ultra popular. He's a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy, and it's not like anybody else is going to be out there soaking up anything good. So get me some Saben Lee potentially. Gotta love saying that out loud. Anything else for Phoenix?
Nope.
All right, we got to talk a little bit about PrizePicks, presenting sponsor of this show. Hit that like button. That's what PrizePicks wants you to do first. And then they want you to sign up. So you'll click the link in the description of this video, head on over to PrizePicks, make a deposit. They're going to match that deposit up to $100. And what you're doing at PrizePicks is you're taking player props, over-unders. My recommendation is put 5 together on one card where you can net up to 10x your entry fee. Even if you don't get all 5 right, if you get 4, you still get 2x back. You're picking multiple sports if you would like. Right now, they've got NBA, NHL, NFL, college basketball, soccer, Euro basketball, Counter-Strike, PGA, tennis, MMA, Call of Duty. I mean, they have got all sorts of sports, and you could build that card out across sports if you want. Adam and I are going to talk about fantasy scores for today. FanDuel scoring. So we're talking 3 points for blocks, 3 points for steals, -1 for turnovers. We're going to hit some of the studs that are on today's slate. We're starting with Jason Tatum, over under 51.5 fantasy points.
Slight under?
Yeah, I've got a slight under as well. I got him at 50 on the dot. The perspective here is going to be very interesting. Switching teams to Golden State, Steph Curry, 42.5.
Over.
I got 44. I would actually take the over as well.
Yeah, we have 43.5, and I think he's somebody that I typically just even a little bit higher on.
Okay. To Philly with Joel Embiid, 54.5.
Slight under?
Ooh, I got slight over. I got him at 55 too. I think that's a good line.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to change that to the over.
Okay.
Because we only have him at 33 minutes. I think he probably plays an extra minute or two. So really, I just wouldn't want to take it. But if I had to take a side, I think I would take the over.
Now, we're going to get to this one in the next game. But my final one, I just want to mention him because of already doing Steph. Dame Lillard, 47.5. Been playing well.
Over.
I got him at 46 too. So I would actually take a slight under. But you guys know me, the Dame hater.
Yeah, we have him at 46 too also.
Okay. Well, guys, that's PrizePicks. Again, link in the description, up to $100 on your first deposit.
Oh, wait. We have him at 43.7 on FanDuel. So I guess I would take the under. I was actually looking at DraftKings.
There we go. Don't blame me for trailing me here. Philadelphia 76ers, 2-point favorites in Portland, 233 total. For Philly, everybody's available. I don't know what they're going to do from a starting lineup perspective. Probably doesn't matter all that much. Not a ton of ownership coming into this team at all. It's basically like 10 to 15 across Harden, Embiid, Harris, Maxey, and Melton. I don't think anybody really stands out the most. Maxey might be a little bit underrepresented at 6,200 for right now. Clearly very happy to get to Joel Embiid. Do you have a priority from Philly?
I don't really think so, just because you have like so many other spots that they're competing with. So as a result, like Embiid's pulling 8% ownership, Harden's pulling 5%. It makes them both look good in tournaments, just given the ceilings that they have, the minutes that they're likely to play. But you have all of these other good center options we've already talked about. You have all these other good guard options we've already talked about. It keeps either of them, I think, from being a true priority. The only guy on this team pulling double-digit ownership right now is DeAnthony Melton. And I mean, I get it with it being a 4-game slate, assuming he remains in the starting lineup. But, we talked about it before. You're likely to still just be getting like 22-ish minutes from him. I don't think him starting has a big change, a big impact on his playing time. I think you're just kind of redistributing where Tyrese Maxey's minutes are towards the end of the game as opposed to like the beginning. So I think that Melton starting doesn't change a ton for him. It takes, some playing time off of Maxey. I'm certainly not projecting 36 for him off the bench, but it just makes me still not that interested in Melton.
Yeah, I don't think that he's anything other than just a guy you rotate through. The positionality and the price are like really appealing. If you just like walk away from DeAnthony Melton's name and you're like, okay, it's a shooting guard, small forward, $4,300 guy, so he fits everywhere. Other than like that's just going to be a 10% dude on a slate by default. I don't really see like a ton of upside for him.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, if he's starting and not getting a minutes bump, you're just playing like the same minutes, but more of them alongside Embiid and Harden.
Yeah. I don't see myself getting to like Tucker, Niang, backup center stuff. I don't find Philly to be very interesting.
No, I think it's just sort of, getting to Embiid, Harris, Harden, all looks fine. Tyrese Maxey pulling 9% ownership on DraftKings at 6,200. I was looking at FanDuel ownership a minute ago. So Embiid, Harris, and Harden are all double digits, but nothing crazy, all between 12 and 17%. I think that's pretty much correct. Like they're all just tournament guys that don't really stand out, but certainly have very high ceilings, especially for Embiid and Harden. The Maxey piece kind of interesting just because if this game is competitive, you are likely getting 30 to 32 minutes from him.
Come on, chat. Sean V, Dez, you're killing yourselves here with dumb takes. This Ayton stuff is insane. I can't take it. Drives me
After
insane.
Ayton gets his usual 27. I wonder what he thinks Ayton average. Yeah, what do you think Ayton averages? Is it really 27?
It's very, very clearly not 27.
I know that.
Not close. Not close. Yes, the old 0% optimal DeAndre Ayton today. That's how data works. Killing me, folks. You're killing me. You're killing me.
Adam had Luka priority yesterday. I had more Jokic than Luka.
That's not to invalidate the fact that Luka Doncic was a fantastic play yesterday.
And obviously Luka is a great play. Like, I don't know how dumb you have to be to think that he wasn't.
Let's close it out with Portland. Another team that's pretty easy to talk about. They run the same stuff every day. Nurk, probable. Gary Payton, probable. We've got 25+% ownership coming into Simons and Josh Hart. Yes, Josh Hart. We've got about 15% ownership coming into Dame and Nurk. Not a lot coming into Jeremy Grant, which doesn't really surprise me. It's pretty much the starting five and nobody else for me. Who is the best option for Portland today?
Dame.
Is it?
I mean, I think it's always Dame. Pretty much.
Fair. Talk to me. 16% owned. I'm actually over the field on Dame today, so I think
I'm going to run the other direction on that one.
Yeah, there we go.
I mean, he's playing huge minutes. He's playing really well. Like, obviously, you don't want to like him playing well is not super important. It's Dame. Like him playing well recently doesn't mean he's going to play well today, but he does just seem to be in one of these Damian Lillard stretches where his normal rates don't matter. He just does a bunch of crazy shit every game. But at 10K, I just still think he looks really good here, pulling 16% ownership. You do have cheap price tags elsewhere. Anthony Simons at 6,300, Josh Hart at 4,900. Both look good from a salary standpoint. They're both playing a lot of minutes. Hart, not a great point per minute guy. Simons around a fantasy point per minute in the games he's played with Dame this year, but they're just both really cheap. 7,300 on Nurk is good as well. I think those are the four main guys. Jeremy Grant probably getting slept on a little bit. He does take a hit with Damian Lillard being active, but he is still likely to play mid to upper 30s, assuming that this game is competitive. So I think that he is interesting at low ownership. As far as value goes, Gary Payton II at 3K pulling 7%, maybe, I guess. Like, he played 18 minutes last game. He's a decent point per minute guy. You're not going out of your way to get to him, but in case of emergency, I think he's fine.
Yeah, I don't hate the idea of it. I would assume they want to ramp his minutes up more and more. Like, in the end, I think they'll want Gary Payton out on the court more frequently than they want like a rookie Shaedon Sharpe when the games start mattering. But did you mention anything for Drew Eubanks by any chance? I wasn't totally listening. Any interest in Eubanks 3,200 at center, under, like, not represented at all? I mean, is he any different than Luka Garza today?
I mean, Luka Garza is a much better point per minute guy. So yeah,
sure. Just looking at him as like a $3,200. And look, if Luka Garza is 30% owned, then yes, Drew Eubanks is a very interesting option at 3,200 for today. But I don't think that Luka Garza is going to be 30% owned. So there's also that. All right. I think we caught up here. We got this one done in 45 minutes. No thanks to Jordan. We've got the NFL show coming up after this. Adam, any final thoughts on this slate?
Glad I don't have to read chat anymore.
I mean, I hope chat's in the contest that I'm in if we're just going to like be drawing a line through very, very reasonable plays for today. Bet Pro videos today?
Yeah.
All righty. Keep your eyes peeled for those. My contenders videos are already out. Adam will be back for the deeper dive later tonight at 5:30. You'll also get NBA Live before lock at 6:30. So 2 straight hours of NBA content. It's going to be a good time, folks. Thank you to PrizePicks for being here. Thank you to Chris Karen for scrambling and getting this show out to you guys. I like this slate. I hope that I still like it by the time we get to 7:30. Good luck tonight, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Peace.